Welcome to the MS Dev Show, episode number 146. This week we talk with Simina Pasat and Karl Piteira about Mobile Center, our favorite new features in the Creators Update, and the new Xbox Scorpio makes the PlayStation 4 Pro look like a kid's toy.
This episode of the MS Dev Show is brought to you by Expose, the market leader of .NET and Java APIs for file business formats. Natively work with DocX, XSLX, PPT, PDF, MSG, MPP, image formats, and many more.
This week we have Simina Pasat and Karl Piteira, program managers for Mobile Center. Simina is focused on DevOps and Karl is focused on monitoring. How's it going, guys?
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing great.
So Karl, what do we have for the comment of the week?
This week, we got the comment of the week off of our website from Christopher Canode. He had a pretty lengthy comment, said, I enjoyed the show as always. In the news section, I'm really glad that you found the article going against unpaid overtime. It has been on my mind a lot. I think there are many people in IT who are routinely taken advantage of by their employers. At my previous job, our boss expected us to work 55 to 60 hours a week, or else we weren't, quote, doing our job. As a developer, I do realize that there are times when we need to work extra to meet a deadline, and I've had to many, many times, but that should not be a weekly occurrence. In my view, the company is paying for 40 hours of time to perform development, and it is my responsibility to provide good service. My job may end at 40 hours a week, but what I do for my career continues on. After commuting time, taking care of family obligations, if you have free time, much of that is devoted, or in his case, to developing his skills as a developer. If I constantly work over, then that time to improve myself disappears. In the long time, I believe that it is in the best interest of companies to limit the work hours of their tech workers to a 40-hour a week. And I know Jason had a little bit of a contrarian point of view last time, but I think that was, if you knew that you're going to be working, 45, 55, 60 hours a week, and the compensation was adjusted upwards for that, then it made sense. But if you are only getting paid for 40 hours a week and you're constantly doing more, then you are getting paid less per hour compared to other people.
Well, I think it's something that you should know ahead of time. If they tell you ahead of time that, hey, this job is 55 to 60 hours, but I think the biggest problem is that they don't tell you ahead of time. You assume that it's 40 hours or a certain expectation of work. And I think I might've mentioned in the last show, but it's kind of like being gauged on number of lines of code written. Like we know that it doesn't work properly. And plus, if you're working 60 hours a week and extra is required of you, good luck with that, because you're probably already burnt out. So I guess we sort of skipped over the fact too that Karl and I are actually in the same room right now. So if you're watching the video, you can see that I'm actually out in Wisconsin, and we're trying things a little differently just because I happen to be here. But this will be our only episode where we're standing next to each other for the foreseeable future. But
actually, that might not be true. In a few weeks, we might be doing something next to each other.
Oh,
as well.
That's true. But that's a good little tease there. But that'll be a little bit different than this.
All right. Anyways, this week, the comment was sponsored by Expose, and Christopher gets a developer small business license for Expose Total for .NET, which includes all of the Expose.NET products in one package. And if you too would like to get mentioned on the show like Christopher did, send us an email to feedback@msdevshow.com, comment on Facebook, YouTube, or Stitcher. We especially love those 5-star iTunes reviews.
Perfect. Okay, let's jump into the news. So announcing custom domain HTTPS support with Azure CDN.
Yeah, so if you are utilizing the Azure CDN, you have to use HTTPS. And not only that, there's no additional cost for the cert. Microsoft's going to kick that in for free. So I thought that was a pretty cool little tip.
Okay. Oh, and this is on a custom domain as well?
Yeah, so you can get...
that's what this is. Oh, this is specifically on the custom domain. Okay,
so you can get a custom domain with HTTPS and a free cert, so it's nice and secure.
Okay. Everybody, use the CDN. Announcing the .NET Framework 4.7. I didn't even know that this was coming. This is cool.
Yeah, this blog post was written April 5th. I think it came out that day too. So if you actually go look in Visual Studio, 2017. It'll be there for an update. You can install .NET 4.7 as well as the Windows 10 Creators Update SDK as well. That's in there for 2. But in particular, the .NET Framework 4.7 includes a bunch of features that help out a lot of legacy things, like it brings high DPI support for Windows Form applications, touch support for WPF, enhancements around cryptography, and the normal performance and reliability improvements that we see elsewhere. Anything else that you wanted to mention about this?
Well, I think the first one there too is kind of important. .NET Framework 4.7 supporting .NET Standard 1.6, which I think is kind of a big deal as well. So we're seeing some good interop between those frameworks.
And then we do get the new C# 7 features in there as well. I think that
that's a big deal.
Yeah, some of these you might have to update some NuGet packages to get, but yeah, they're all available now with 4.7.
Okay. Very cool. Okay, what else we got here? Creators Update is out, sort of. So I think it officially gets started. It starts getting pushed out on the 11th. That's the official day, but there's a couple ways that you can, or maybe not a couple ways. I guess there's like one way you can get early through the Insiders program. So if you're in the Insiders program, I think you can go out there and I shouldn't say you think you can go out there and download the ISOs and you can update your machines. I don't know if there's any other way to get it.
There is an upgrade tool that can be used
well.
to get up there faster.
Yeah. So I did want to talk about some of the key features in there too, like what I think is important. Because my favorite place to check out is the settings app and kind of look through that and see what got added there. So there's a couple features. One that I found that I wasn't expecting at all was internet sharing. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but you go in there and you can share your internet connection. It'll basically act as a Wi-Fi hotspot. But what's cool about it is you can share a wired or a wireless connection. So, what is the scenario? So I've been on a plane before where I had, Wi-Fi, or actually maybe even the better example is I've been to other companies where you have to authenticate against their Wi-Fi using some kind of crazy process. And, or I was even at one customer where I had to physically wire in my machine. That was the only way to get internet access at their location. With this feature, you can turn this on. Your laptop will turn into a Wi-Fi hotspot, and then your phone or other devices connect to it. So you can basically share your internet through that device, which I think is pretty significant. So in the case where I was able to wire in my laptop, I would have been able to share that. And I think if you're like on a plane, you could share out like go-go Wi-Fi and things like that. And then not have that captive portal where you have to put in the CAPTCHA and go through all of that ugly, horrible stuff. So to me, that's kind of a big deal. At least in the old Surface Pro devices, I know there was a trick for doing it through the command line, but there was a networking feature that wasn't enabled. So it actually wasn't even possible. So even if you were kind of a hacker and wanted to get this to work, it wasn't supported. And now it's just an item on the settings panel, which is amazing. The other big thing, quiet hours can be 18 hours now. It used to be you could only have it be 12 hours. So you can actually have it go like super early to super late where maybe quiet hours isn't the name of this. It's basically the period that you can pick where you won't get the update prompts, or it won't automatically update your machine. So essentially you can have now just a 6-hour period at night in which you're basically allowing your machine to get automatically updated. So that was a good feature. And then the last one that I wanted to point out was basically, whatever, I don't know what
is that night shift?
Yeah, night shift, which is basically, it's basically flux, right? Where it shifts the blue light out of there at night, which supposedly makes it easier to sleep, and it does make it a little bit easier on the eyes as well. So those features now are all built into the Creators Update. I updated my Surface Book. So far it's been good. Some things seem a little bit faster. Time will tell if it's more stable, but I'm under the impression that that's going to be the case. So I don't know, Karl, if you had any features that you've been playing with, or you want to mention anything?
So, one of the things I think that the Windows Insider program actually kind of ruins for you in some cases is like you get used to this constant drip of new features.
Yeah.
So then when it's time for it to come out, it's like, all right, when's the next feature coming out?
Yeah.
The new ones aren't so exciting if that's the case.
You've been ODing on features.
Yep.
So other Karl and Simina, I don't know. Have you guys played with Creators Update yet? You're
I
playing it
haven't
safe?
updated my Surface yet,
Well,
to
you
be
guys-
honest.
You guys are
We
busy, like,
should be
actually
doing that
working.
this weekend.
Yeah.
But no, unfortunately I haven't used it yet.
Oh, you guys are busy building stuff and doing work and those types of things.
Kind of.
Oh, nice. I like your picture there, Carl. Carl just pulled up a picture. It says in quotes seems faster. Yep, exactly. Just like my car always seems faster after I get an oil change. And then the last news item that we wanted to go over. Either of you guys gamers?
Yeah.
No, Carl, Simina, you guys gamers?
I'm not, but I used to work in Xbox, so yeah, I know a bit about
Oh,
Xbox.
okay. Okay, you can give us the inside scoop here because you have all the inside knowledge now. So the Project Scorpio specs were announced. I actually wasn't going over the specific specs, but I guess the information that was dropped here was that this thing is a beast. I don't know. Is there any specs here we want to mention? True 4K gaming. So I guess there was a demo of Forza at 4K at 60 frames per second. I guess there was still a ton of headroom on this thing. Basically, the articles, of course, the sensational story is that this thing kind of destroys the PS4 Pro in terms of performance.
But it should, because it's coming out essentially a year later.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think they're done, right? Like PlayStation, I don't think there's like a Pro 2 or something, right? But yeah, I mean, it's the later product to the 4K game, and a lot more powerful. 12 gigabytes of memory, 6 teraflop GPU. Yeah, pretty much everybody analyzing these specs. Again, I don't really know how to interpret all these, but they're saying it kind of crushes everything that exists out there, from a console perspective.
And for me personally, it's not going to be more interesting until we can start getting ready to buy these. So
Yeah. So no,
But still, when you say like Forza in 4K,
yeah, I know.
I'm already addicted to it.
No, stop. Because it's kind of interesting. I have a 1080p 70-inch TV, and I actually had to rent a DVD recently. It was a kids movie that my kids want. It was Trolls, I think. And it was 480p, and I popped that in and played it. And actually, from the distance that I sit from the TV, it actually was, it really didn't look much different than 1080p. So I was kind of on the, I've been sitting here waiting for, an excuse to go out and get 4K. So like, I hope this thing's delayed or something. Like I don't need this in my life, because if I know that this exists, it's going to make me want to go out and get a new, 4K TV. And that's just going to be a whole journey. Step one, actually for me, I went out and bought like the 4K Roku. So that's kind of like my foot in the 4K door, but I don't know. I'm trying to Carl's got to hold me back. Be strong for me, Carl. Okay, so let's jump into Mobile Center. So Mobile Center's been out, I think, a few months, right?
Yeah,
We
since
announced
November.
in November, yeah.
In November, yeah. So it's been out for a few months, and it's been kind of a shame that we haven't talked about it on the show, but I think we're just waiting for the right timing here. And I think that kind of the culmination of a lot of stuff that you guys have been working on has all come together. So it's just a great time to talk about it. So I guess we'll start with the basics, what are, for anybody who hasn't heard about it, like what is Mobile Center?
Do you want to start?
Yeah, I can start. So Mobile Center is basically a control center for app developers. Mm-hmm. And the goal is really to help app developers throughout the whole life cycle of creating an app. So from the very first start, when you start pushing code to your repo, making sure that we automate all the steps there to allow you to go faster and be more productive, down to understanding what's happening in your app, what's in the field, in the phones of your users. So
yeah.
Mobile Center really covers all these aspects.
Yeah, and you can think about it that, developers are using an IDE to write their code. And the way I like to think about it is that everything else, they can find it in Mobile Center. Yep. They don't have to go to one service to set up build or continuous integration, and to another service to set up monitoring, and to another service to set up analytics. You have everything in one single place, and you get it in one UI and one mission control.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, because this brought together like a whole bunch of services that were in different locations, right? Mm-hmm. And then do those services exist in their old locations? Were they moved? Were they kind of, are they exposed in two places?
So that's a great question. And actually, part of that move was also to unify SDKs, unify API surfaces, because definitely Microsoft has been investing a lot in mobile, like mobile first motto, but definitely we had a lot of unique products with different SDKs, different APIs. So I think that's a great move to make sure that we bring everything with a uniform experience, which definitely improves both productivity and developer experience.
Yeah, it really reminds me of like the new VS 2017 experience, the new installer, where you go in there and it's sort of scenario based. And I really like that approach better. It's like, hey, what are you trying to do? Like, what type of person are you? So I think this acknowledges the fact that, there are mobile developers and they have a set of needs that is all uniform. So I think it makes a lot of sense from that perspective.
Yeah, and to your point, I think one important thing to mention is that Mobile Center is still in preview. So we announced it in November, but we are super actively working on it. And for really production apps, we still have the old services which are being maintained. So like if somebody, wants to have this, the future most successful app, I think they should definitely consider Mobile Center. But if it's, if they wanted to put it out in production, it's still a preview product. So there are some small things to consider them.
I was like, I would totally ignore you. I just use it.
well, I would do it as well, but we have to point it out.
Disclaimer. Yep.
And we're iterating really super fast on Mobile Center.
Yeah.
So I was looking, and to like log into this, you log into like a visualstudio.com URL. So is Azure still a big part of this? Do I need Azure, or is it all through this centralized portal?
So actually the visualstudio.com part is more like the product/marketing page. But when you actually want to log into Mobile Center, you go to mobile.azure.com. And that's also because the product really is in the cloud. So you build in the cloud, you test in the cloud, you distribute from the cloud. So that's what makes it a strong tie to Azure. But because it's a tool to help developers, that's why there is that Visual Studio starting point and Visual Studio brand.
And you don't really need, if you're a brand new person with a Microsoft ecosystem, you don't need to worry about any other subscriptions. It's it's a standalone product. So even though the URL is mobile.azure.com, it doesn't mean that you actually need an Azure subscription. You don't.
Okay. That's kind of what I was wondering about, because I think that can be intimidating. Somebody's like, I'm just a mobile developer and I want to use some of these, because the competition is really like these SaaS services that do, this or that. And to come over to the Microsoft side and say, hey, you need to have an Azure subscription, and then you got to go kind of hunt and peck for these different services. I think this is just a much nicer story for the developers for sure.
Yeah, and in fact, when we started working on it, for one of the first login types we had was sign up with GitHub. Yeah. Because we know that many developers live on GitHub. So that was one of our first social authentication, if you can call it this way.
Yeah, I saw that in there. That's very cool.
And as you start needing to use Azure together with Mobile Center, we have a place where it's super easy to link your Azure subscription to Mobile Center, but you don't need to do it at the very start. So you can just start exploring it. You plug in your GitHub account or your Microsoft account, and you're there, ready to go.
Okay. And then what were kind of the core scenarios that you guys had in mind building this? What was the, if you're picturing like a certain persona for the person using it, what did that look like?
Well, I would say we have generally two big areas of the product, and we can imagine that there's different personas using them either together or separately. And I think one of these pieces is the piece of mobile DevOps. So the whole, you build your app, you do continuous integration, you test it, do automated UI testing in the cloud, and then you distribute it either to your internal testers, to maybe external testers, or in the end out to the store. So that's one of the part which kind of helps developing the app and bringing it, getting incremental feedback and getting the app to get this 5-star app that you want to be. But then you actually have to learn about the app, and maybe Karl wants to talk a bit about that part.
Yeah, definitely. So the point is that when you're putting an app in the hands of people, be they testers or actual end users, you want definitely to reach to that 5-star. So you were saying earlier you want a 5-star podcast, and app developers, they want 5-star in the store, and we want to help them achieve that. So that goes hand in hand with understanding what end users are doing, what they are liking, what they are not liking, any quality issues, so crash, making sure that you get proper crash reporting, both sizing the problem, but also understanding what people experience with the app. So bringing the best tools to help you understand the quality of your app, but also fix any problems with quality. And then at some point engaging them in the app. But all that works if you're able to iterate fast on that. And that's where I think we tie the story together, because in order to do that, you want to get that software as fast as possible in the hand of your testers or the hand of end user. And that's where it goes back to the DevOps part, where, well, I just, improved that feature. It was hidden. I understood from my analytics that it was people were not really discovering it. I made it more prominent. And now I hope they like it and they are going to use it. But how long does it take for them, from either testers or end users, to actually experience that? And well, as a developer, I just want to commit my code and then it goes. And that's what we are trying to do, is I just, git commit and boom, a few minutes later, you receive an update saying, "Hey, you can download the new version."
Mm-hmm. I love the first comment on there about the, we're just trying to get you 5-star reviews. No, I love that. I love that, because that summarizes almost everything else. Because if you make the developer's life easier, if you make that whole process easier, and you make it so that you can improve the quality, the crashing, all that all feeds into just getting 5-star reviews, which is going to make you more money or more visibility or whatever. So I just love that beginning summary. I just wanted to comment on that.
So I was wondering which platforms are supported in, or mobile platforms are supported in Mobile Center.
So we started back in November, and we started with iOS, Objective-C, and Swift. So both of these ones, then Android, Java, and as well as Xamarin. And then we added React Native, and by popular demand, we are now working hard on UWP support.
Okay.
It's coming very soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really soon.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Yeah, Karl was asking about that before the show. He's like, I want this for UWP, so...
Well, especially since some of the initial documentation I saw said Xamarin, and then it said only Xamarin iOS and Xamarin Android, because I know sometimes you can get some of those Xamarin SDKs to support UWP as well. So it's good to hear that that's going to be an option going forward.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think the goal and the spirit that Microsoft has been having for the past few years was to show and demonstrate openness. And I think that's what we've been trying to do as well, to say, hey, this is not a product just focused on Windows and the UWP platform.
Yeah.
It's really a product for any mobile platform. So we started there, but of course, we are not forgetting UWP developers. On the contrary, we want to be providing even better tools. So for sure, we are at work on that platform, and it will come very soon.
Okay.
Aspose offers a powerful set of file management APIs with which developers can create applications, which can create, open, edit, and save the majority of popular business file formats. Their product range supports a multitude of file formats, including Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, PowerPoint presentations, PDF documents, OneNote, Outlook, Project, Visio files, popular image formats, and many others. Aspose produces APIs for .NET, Java in the cloud, which can be utilized in almost any modern language available today. Visit www.aspose.com for a free 30-day no limitations trial. And if you get stuck, message the friendly support team for help. All technical support is offered free of charge. Remember, if you're a lucky winner, You will receive a free developer small business license for expose.words for .NET, a powerful toolkit to work with Word documents in your applications.
I love it. Really shows the new Microsoft though that we launch with, or I shouldn't say launch. I mean, it's still in preview. So in preview, we have iOS and Android and UWP being right around the corner. I think that's really cool to see. So I figured what we'd do is we'd actually just walk through a whole bunch of the features so we can just, kind of deep dive into those. So I was kind of hoping you could walk us through those, and I have kind of a short list here, and you'll have to just let us know if we miss anything. But the first thing is building an app. So can you tell us what that does exactly?
Yeah, for sure. So as a developer, we write the code, and something that everybody does is git commit and then push the code. And what the build service does is that we take the code from the repository and we transform it in a package that can be, we can run unit tests or we can run UI tests on, and then finally distribute it to the users. And I think we have some really nice features in this build service package. One of my favorite one is that it's so easy to use. Like, I remember from a few years ago when I had to set up continuous integration, and it was a burden for me. I was like, okay, that's gonna take like at least 1 week of my time. I have to, set up this local server, and I have to, have a build machine, and like such a big pain. And right now it's just, we do a lot of analysis on top of the repositories. So users just have to, select my CS project and select my version and select some easy things like build on push or run unit test and then click OK, and that's it.
My favorite one is actually, like uploading the certificates and the provisioning profile, like just like drag and drop, and feels easy.
Right, and it's so easy, and you don't have, especially for iOS developers out there, that's a big problem when they want to use continuous integration, that they have to provide their own Mac hardware for the build server. So one thing is using your own hardware for developing, which is staying, it's not going anywhere. But then I know a bunch of people who use some other continuous integration, and they have, a rack somewhere or a shelf in their office, and they're keeping the Mac hardware there.
Yep.
And then you have to update it all the time to have the right version and everything. And one of my favorite parts is that we take that away from the developers, and we are taking care of everything. So we have the Mac hardware, we have the Mac cloud, we provide clean VMs for every single build. So, everything is super secure and sandboxed. And it's just super easy. You just click a few buttons, and then you have your own VM provision with a right Xcode version, with a right, every single tool that you need is in there. So you don't have to worry about setting all of this up.
So if I have an iOS app in GitHub, you guys will handle the build for me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes. And what's really
just call that magic, yeah.
And what's really funny, and the way I usually demonstrate it at conferences and to people is that, and I'm more on the other side where on the monitoring, which we'll talk about later. But at some point I say, hey, I want to show you how that works. So I commit my tracking of events and things like that, and automatically you see on Mobile Center that. Of course, it's linked with my GitHub repo, and it picked up the commit. Automatically, you don't have to do any refresh or whatever. The build is pending, it's starting, you see the logs flowing, and then it's done. So succeed, fails, whatever, it depends on what I did in the code actually, but at least, you get it there, and I didn't need anything. So,
so I'm just picturing you. So you check in some code, and then for the whole presentation, you just stand there.
He takes a guitar and he starts playing.
Exactly. But you just pick up the mic every once, so just drop it.
Yeah, next time I'll take a ukulele and start playing.
That's a good demo.
So the next category that we had looked to cover was test. And it's not that these are necessarily unit tests, but these are testing on actual devices for us. How does that work?
I actually like that feature a lot because, when you develop an app and you want it to be out there in the stores used by real people have so many devices. Like, really, if somebody can imagine that they can test manually an app on every single device, or even do UI testing in their own lab and cover every device out there, I would love to hear how they do it. Like seriously, I would love to hear how they do it and how many people they and how much time they spend on that.
I can tell you, I mean, my previous company, we had like tons of iPhones and Androids, and it would cost a ton of money, and you never had the right cable. And
and the test service.
I had a lot of extra chargers and earbuds. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
The test service really takes away all this pain of handling, the devices, having the device on the right operating system, keeping old operating systems as well, because you don't want to update all your devices. So we have our own data center with thousands of combinations, different languages, different devices, both Android and iOS. You can have there all the iPhones, iPads, all the tables.
Can we call it a data center? Shouldn't we call it like a device center?
Yeah, I guess so.
I'd like to actually see that. I think that'd be interesting to see, like all these devices crammed into the small area. That'd be kind of interesting to see.
Well, I think that's you brought up something else that, like we don't always think about either. Even if you had like all these devices, I would probably only have them set to English or,
right.
Maybe one or two others.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think to have them in all these different combinations.
Yeah, you need a double byte language. You need, languages that are just longer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is this related to Xamarin Test Cloud at all? Because it's a very similar thing. Or, is it just this rebranded?
Yeah, the way we think about Mobile Center is that it is the next generation of Xamarin Test Cloud, especially for the test service. And for the distribution and monitoring part is the next version of Hockey app. So you brought up a really good point is, yes, we are looking to bring everything in one place, and Xamarin Test Cloud is one of the services that is coming in here.
Yeah. And it's funny because whenever we think about the Xamarin acquisition, we think like, oh, that's a great way to get that and then get more people on the platform. But, we kind of forget that whole test cloud came over as well. And it's not like it doesn't feel like it's shoehorned in here. Like this is like, we needed that as well. So I think people forget about that, but that is an amazingly good service. Yep. Super important. And then what about distributing my app? So how do I actually do that?
Yeah, I think all of this cycle comes in naturally. As Karl was saying, you say he starts tracking events, and great, you have a build, you have tested your build, but then that's the essential part. You want to put it in the hand of your users, regardless whether they are internal testers. In Microsoft, we do it with all these, all the company dogfooding our own stuff.
Yep.
Or to external testers, that's actually the distribution part where you get the package that was firstly built and then tested, you put it actually in the hands of users. And that's when you are able to start monitoring and learning from their behavior. And then once you learn, you go make a change, and then you go through the same cycle again. So it's all of it is together.
So the nice thing is that you can define some groups of people. So when you define your build, you can say, hey, this needs to go to like my alpha QA or to my beta QA or to actually external testers or all of them. And they will just get them, like again, you commit and then build, test, distribute.
And they get this cool in-app update, or you can even force them to have the app updated. For them, it's like super easy as a user to use it. You don't have to, go to some internal web page where you have to log in with some credentials and to download some package on your phone and then to put it via USB. It's just now you get everything in-app update on your phone, and that's it.
Yeah. As a user, of that service, like within Microsoft, it is great. I can go and it's kind of like a internal store of all those applications. And then, I get to help out with dog fooding and that type of thing. But then what about distributing to the actual app stores then? Is that all handled as well? Because I noticed you mentioned the certificates before. So can it also push like directly into those stores for updates?
Coming soon.
Okay.
So today you can build, we have support for certificates and for building every variation of the app, whether it's a debug, ad hoc, or release version. So you can definitely build it today and sign it the proper way and package it in such a way that it's ready for the App Store, for the Play Store, for whatever store. And the ability to publish directly from Mobile Center is also coming soon.
Okay, so there's just one extra step today, which isn't, I wasn't expecting you to directly publish to that, so that's cool. That's just a bonus.
So you mentioned that part of this comes from Hockey App as well. So we get to like the crash monitoring part of this as well. So do we get like full native crash dumps like when when those do happen?
Yes, definitely. So we redesign SDKs for Mobile Center so that they are small, modular, and very easy to use. So now with basically dropping the SDK in the app and one line, you get two things. If you choose so, you get crash reporting and the basic analytics. And on the crash side, definitely we basically get the crash, give you the opportunity as a developer to create an opt-in mechanism because end users should be in control of whether they are willing to share what's happening on their device or not. So as a developer, you can activate these opt-in consent mechanisms. But if the consent is positive, then yes, we will send the crashes to the backend, and then we have the analysis of crashes. So we have two main things. One, the analytics of crashes, which means we are going to count the crash, to count users, so device-free, crash-free devices, things like that, as well as the full stack trace that we will symbolicate on iOS. And of course, on Android, we have the normal stack trace. But on iOS, we'll also symbolicate the stack trace for you to have an understandable stack trace with file names and line numbers and everything to help you as a developer understand what happened. We have also things like most affected devices, most affected model, so that it can be a hint. And at the moment, we're adding new stuff around it because when you see a stack trace, you don't necessarily understand, it doesn't necessarily point to the immediate problem. Actually, your app may be crashing, but it may be crashing because something happened way before. So our goal is to provide you as many hints as possible on the environment, the device itself, the conditions, potentially events, things like that. So we are going to provide you as many things as we can so that you really understand the context and you can basically understand your problem faster and most importantly, fix it.
Yeah. So are you using application insights or is that something I'd also use? Like how do those things relate?
So that's coming really from the experience and a big portion of the code we had in Hockey App, where we have a really solid way of grouping crashes together, understanding, like the nature of the crash, grouping them together. And that's a very important part of our technology so that we provide you crashes that are grouped together, that make sense and avoid too much noise.
Okay.
So are there a few other things, I'm thinking about for analytics that you do automatically, like which features might be used a lot or not at all? Is that something that I get out of the box or do I have to do something for that?
So as I was saying, you basically drop the SDK in the app, just start it with the one line, and you get basically the crash reporting, but also a good portion of analytics. So specifically, we have an audience page in the analytics where you understand that basically we answer a bunch of questions around how many users do I have, what models, what OS version they're on, what app version are they on, is my new version well deployed, what country they're in, what language they speak. So really trying to understand the conditions of your user base, of your audience, and you get that, definitely instantly with just one line integration. So that's something that you get really easily. Now for the feature usage, you will have to instrument your app by sending events. And you can send basically events by designing them by a name and some key value pairs in order to characterize the event, and we will show you distributions of these key value pairs, basically for you to understand not only the usage of features or pages and things like that, but also some specific characteristics about these events. That can be, for example, I don't know if you have a news app or an app for your podcast, and you want to understand like which one is listened to. If you have an event like listen, you will have the statistic of like the most listened in order.
Yeah, I think
we already know it's this episode.
I think for the events feature, what I really love is, there's so many times when within a team there are arguments, what should we do next? Should we invest in this feature versus another feature? Is this feature really used? And you really look at the data, and the data is right there, and you can, it just adds another dimension to the argument. Because you know how many people are using it, how are using it, how often they're using it, and you can just take decisions and try it out for a few weeks, and then you see the data and you can compare them, and there you go, you find out it's doesn't make sense to argue with your team anymore.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Carl's fiddling with our show notes here.
Oh, sorry.
Do you want to ask this one, Karl?
So another feature that you had on there was tables. It looks like it's a way to store information locally, but also potentially in the cloud.
Yeah, definitely. So tables is really the easy tables you find in Azure that allows you to do offline sync, and we believe that that's something that's really helpful for developer as a mobile backend to be able to store the data in the cloud, and without too much effort, making sure that you handle these scenarios where you can get disconnected because you're in the subway or you're in some place that doesn't have a network, but you still want to continue to use your app, and this will handle that for you.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. And then what about identity? So what kind of identity, what do you do from a support standpoint there?
Yeah, I think that's similar when you think about it as tables. It's, the way we think about it is that every great app also needs a great backend. And there's a few core features that, every app needs. One of them is the tables part, but another core feature is the identity part as well. So what you really get there is, a simple way, unified way to using the most important identity providers out there. Okay. So, you can think about Facebook and such big social networks.
Okay. Were there any big features that we missed?
We didn't miss any from what's in now, but something that we're working on right now is push. And that's something also that should come very soon.
Push notifications?
Push notifications. Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Very cool. Very cool.
So is the current Azure notifications feature going to migrate to Mobile Center then? Or is this...
So again, like for every other products, just like we have distribute in Mobile Center that inherits from Hockey app. Definitely the push feature inherits from the experience and definitely builds on Notification Hub, which is an amazing feature that allows you to push very quickly and inexpensively to a lot of devices. And of course, we are building on that experience and that quality.
Awesome.
And another part that we added recently, and it's not really a specific feature, but I think it's really useful for bigger teams, is the support for organizations. So then, if you're a bigger team, you can start using Mobile Center together as a team, and then you have different roles, and you can, you have the manager role and the developer role, so you can really get a bit more fine-grained access control, which is really useful, especially, when you're this team of 2 devs working on a small app, maybe it's not that useful, but as soon as you have a bit of a bigger team, you really want to start having some access control in there and to have certain people have access to some things.
No, that's good, because that was one of the biggest issues with the Windows Store. Was for a long time it was just like a single login, and then that person would leave the company or something like that. These big organizations, that was always a huge pain point. They wanted the multiple levels of control there for sure.
Definitely, this has been asked really a lot.
Yeah.
So as a preview product, this is something that is free. Do you have any announcements or any idea what this is going to cost when it does go GA?
So we don't have any announcements. We are, of course, actively working on the pricing aspect, but at this stage, we are not talking about it.
Okay. And then you guys actually mentioned some like upcoming features while we were talking about it. Are there any other upcoming features that you guys wanted to mention?
I mean, we release new features, I think, every single week, and we announce them every second week. So usually every Wednesday or Thursday, active users get an email and it's like, hey, that's what we released last week. And I think we will have soon, so for the build part, until now we had GitHub support, and we added Bitbucket 2 weeks ago, and in the next few weeks, very soon, VSTS support is coming soon. So whatever Git repos you have in VSTS and you have mobile apps, you'll be able to build them with Mobile Center.
Okay. Yeah, because VSTS has come a long way and it's become an amazing product. So that's good to hear.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that one.
Yes. I'm sure a lot of people are. Anything else you guys wanted to mention before we move on? Think we covered everything?
Nothing comes to mind.
Okay. So, Karl, what do you have for the Azure pick of the week?
For the Azure pick of the week, something we haven't talked in a while about is Azure Stack. There's a new technical preview that includes a whole bunch of new services, including Azure functions. So if you have Azure Stack running in your own enterprise, you have these newer Azure features available to you. So it's not just something that you need to have a public subscription for.
You gonna dive in? You just gonna? Well, I guess we'll leave this in the show notes.
We'll leave it in the show notes so you can check it out. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there.
Ooh, Azure functions.
Yes, that's why I mentioned it for you, Jason.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Okay, so we'll have a link to that in the show notes. And you know, me traveling out to Wisconsin here, I forgot the cards at home, so we don't have that game this week, unfortunately. So you guys don't get on the fun of playing a game that was designed apparently by 10-year-olds for 8-year-olds. So I'll just leave it at that. So where can people find more information about you guys and about Mobile Center?
So the best avenue really to find information about Mobile Center is to go to mobile.azure.com.
Okay.
Just sign up. It's super easy, as we said. GitHub, Bitbucket, Microsoft account, login password. Super easy. It takes 5 seconds. And then on the bottom right, you have an icon where you can chat with our team. It's really the best thing to get in touch with us. We respond really quickly when we're awake, but we respond really quickly, and actually a lot of people have been saying to us that it's amazing to be able to have an interactive discussion with the team that actually creates the product. So that's a great avenue. Otherwise, we can be reached on Twitter.
We're on Twitter.
Okay.
My handle is Simina Pasat,
and
so my name.
Yeah, Twikarl, so TWIKARL.
We'll have those. Yeah, we'll have those in the show notes so that people can get to those. And Karl, he's signing up right now for Mobile Center, by the way. There, he's in.
You can find me on Twitter at Karl Schweitzer.
And you can find me at ytechie.com or on Twitter at twitter.com/ytechie. So, guys, thank you so much for coming on here and talking about Mobile Center. Very cool product.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm really excited about what you guys are doing.
Thank you so much.